Strange things are happening in the box office this year, at least within North America. We are watching as movies succeed in a big way and also fail in a big way. Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny is the latest, perhaps one of the biggest flops of all times in the cinema. And yet Hollywood is not happy about the films that are overachieving, and there are many. It may represent a societal shift, a change in the culture, which the corporation media is not willing to cover. But we will. Let's take a look at the pattern right now. And welcome back, folks, to another fantastic day here on the WDW Pro channel. What a joy it is to share good news with all of you. No, it's not good news for Indy, but we believe there is a brighter day ahead for entertainment. And as we get ready to do so, please, if you'd like to see more content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Joining me for this deep dive into a cultural conversation is Floral from Under a Rock and Michelle of Force of Light. Welcome back to both of you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we will start by diving into an article out of Variety that I find to be less than it could be. That's to put it mildly. But we want to be as kind as we possibly can because J. Kim Murphy, the author of this article, we hope will extend us grace one day if we are ever so wrong. And in this case, well, there's plenty to be wrong about in this. I will dissect it as we go through, and then we're going to take a look, investigate what this has to do with the broader cultural implications around the world even. This is a big topic. Far bigger than just Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The title of this article is Box Office: Insidious: The Red Door Knocking Down Indy 5 with $15.2 million opening day. Here's the article. It starts off by saying Indiana Jones has faced Yahtzees and aliens, snakes, and the fury of an Old Testament god. By the way, there's error number one. No, Indy did not face the fury of an Old Testament god. He actually was joined together with recognizing the power of that god as the Yahtzees were defeated in their inability to recognize the power of the divine. But he has never faced the terrors of the Red Door. Sony's Insidious: The Red Door, the latest installment in the Supernatural series, blew by expectations on its opening day with a $15.2 million gross from 3,100 venues. Now, it goes on to talk about how Indiana Jones: Dial of Destiny is likely to fall under this amount. It says, ho-hum, it's another unimpeachable box office success story for the horror genre. Oh, come on. Here's the deal, folks. We are looking at a monumental story here. A franchise in its fifth installment, which nobody basically has heard of, will be beating Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny, another franchise in its fifth installment, which every single person on the planet has likely heard of, outside of China, where they were kept behind a digital curtain for so long. And guess what? It's going to beat it resoundingly. No one, not even myself, saw this coming because, honestly, Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny at this point is already roadkill. I thought that it would take Tom Cruise to come rolling in to knock out Indy. No, you don't have to knock anything out when it has already collapsed. And that is the situation we now find for the box office today. Now, this goes along with, well, actually, let's go to one more article or one more paragraph before I stop on this one. It says, with a $295 million production budget before marketing. And we need to stop there, folks, because what have we found out? What do we know? Well, this article, despite the fact that this individual writing it should know lots about the movie industry, considering it's their job to cover it, they're not telling you that all over the press, we found that the Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny has a more than $300 million production budget, something like $329 million. Except guess what? Now we're hearing it's even higher, probably close to $350 million. Why is it important? Because this is still a movie that needs $1 billion to break even. Now, people like Polly of Latino Slant are wondering if it can even make $300 million total. That puts it at about a third of the amount it needs to break even. Let's go now to our panelists. This continues a pattern that we have seen out of movies. We have seen films that have done exceedingly well. I'm thinking about Top Gun Maverick. I'm thinking about Avatar, The Way of Water. I'm thinking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. I'm thinking about Sonic the Hedgehog movies. These are films, and don't forget the Minions. Don't forget Puss in Boots. These are films that have not done anything to divide audiences and have enticed families to return. And then we have seen films largely out of Disney underperform to historic levels. We're looking at Ant-Man, Quantumania. We're looking at The Little Mermaid. We're looking at the latest offerings, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, Elemental, and likely we have more on the way, including the Marvels. It seems as if audiences are being turned away from whatever it is that Disney is doing. But it's not limited just to Disney. The Flash also suffered a humiliating launch. Not as humiliating, I believe, as Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, but humiliating nonetheless. Floral, is there now a pattern that we are watching happen that may represent some sort of cultural shift, which is being relayed to us by the market before we see its effect in politics, if that ever shall manifest?
Yeah, so my initial thought is I'm wondering if it's more just the culture is actually resisting it. And so people put their money where their heart is. And people are not going to these things. And I'm thinking that's the pattern. Because it was built in their system to go and see all of these movies, to be encouraged and all that kind of stuff. And now they're just denying it because they're not accepting the values. And I've said this, I think, on here, but on this channel before, where by and large, what you're seeing is the push with all of these cultural forays. Although people might say it, they don't actually believe it. They don't put their money there. And so they're overall resisting. So I think overall, that they're trying to force cultural change. It's not organic. It's not what people actually accept. No one wants it in their home. And so when you take a step back and you look at it through that lens, it's actually, I think, an encouraging pattern that you're seeing, that people are actually a lot more aware than maybe what those of us who are a lot more skeptical at first, at least for the last like 5 years, were initially. And so that's kind of my initial thought there.
So let me drill down with you on that, Floral, for a moment.
Okay.
When we look at this, okay, so there are a plethora of excuses that we have heard out of the mainstream media. They have told us that audiences need sequels. They will not go watch original IP. Well, Indiana Jones is the definition of a sequel, right? This is the fifth installment in one of the biggest franchises of all times. We have heard from the mainstream media that this is due to families being in fear of returning to theaters, despite the fact that the Super Mario Brothers movie is one of the biggest animated feature films of all times in terms of gross revenues. Families clearly were not in fear of that. Now, what I'm wondering is, based on what we're seeing with Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, where it is falling completely off a cliff, this thing is dead, it is roadkill, it has surpassed my lowest expectations, and they were low. Do you think that families are intentionally now choosing, and I mean in mass, I mean at a societal level, choosing to boycott Disney in perhaps the same vein as we have seen with some of these other companies over the last months, and perhaps even beyond that level?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is Disney. I think people are just, Disney has tainted other brands. DC hasn't really done themselves any favor by any stretch of the imagination. But Marvel has tanked the superhero genre in general. And so you're seeing that kind of splash into other realms. But animation, on the other hand, as we're all very well aware, if you're in another studio and you create something that is family friendly, everyone's going to go watch it. And maybe not at the same level that you would have seen maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, but you're seeing them go, and people love sequels. If it's a continuation of the story, or an alternate, same characters, but just a different event altogether, right? So not necessarily a sequel, but just the like James Bond, right? People care about that stuff. They love their characters. That's why they come back to these things, because there's familiarity. Disney has taken all the familiarity and pulled the rug from underneath. And what I think you're seeing is in the same way that in the culture, even though again there's this mass belief that marriage and all that kind of stuff is being shunned, the younger generations, they want to see families together. They want to see that because they didn't grow up with it. And so right now all of the studio heads are all of these people who were the parents to the latchkey generation. So they all got divorced. They all didn't care. And when they bring all that bitterness and anger into all their productions. And so that's what I think is kind of another element here, is you're seeing that bitterness thrown on screen, and just people just don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't like it. They don't embrace it because it's not the ideal. Humans are idealistic. We know what's good. We know what's right. We can't do it, obviously, all of the time. We fail at it, which is why we need help. But the big thing is, we know what's good. We know what's holy. We know what's righteous, and we strive for that. Again, some people might come up with their own individual interpretation as to what that actually means, but we have this common set of values, and people want to see that on screen, and it's not being presented. In fact, it's all the rug is being pulled out from underneath on those things. And so, yeah, people are just resisting. And that's why Mario, even though, like, I mean, it had some things in it that were whatever. But for the most part, it was family, right? They loved their parents loved them. And the parents were only hard on the boys because, like, they wanted what's best for them, right? It wasn't because they're like, you're just a bunch of schlubs. It's like, we want what's best for you. Does that make sense? Am I kind of answering your question? I think I am.
It does, and I want to key in as well. You were talking about these media insiders, these industry insiders who are spewing this sort of vitriolic mindset. Michelle, I'm going to show you something out of that same article. And again, folks, every author has a bad day. And maybe this was just a particularly bad day for the writer of this Variety article, but this is bad stuff here. Let's take a look at the way a movie that is about defending children is being framed. It says, kind of sort of opening this weekend is the espionage thriller Sound of Freedom, which debuted in 2,800 theaters on July 4th. Competitors are projecting the Angel Studios release will reach a 6-day domestic total of 37 million, adding 15 million to its haul over the 3-day frame. That'd be enough to land bronze on domestic charts. Based on a true story, it stars Jim Caviezel, who has found a dedicated fan base ever since playing the titular Christ in Mel Gibson's mega hit, The Passion of the Christ. Then it goes on to talk about Caviezel, connecting him somehow with conspiracy groups, and it goes on to talk about the hero who is portrayed in the movie as being connected with all kinds of insanity. I'm not sure that I believe any of that, and I'm not sure that if this were connected with anything on the other end of the political spectrum, that it would be targeted this way. And what I think is happening here is that Hollywood is watching as Indiana Jones' Dial of Destiny goes down. This is part of the broader defense they have laid for Kathleen Kennedy over the last 6, 7, 8 years, right? So we were all supposed to be forced to like what happened to Star Wars. And if you did not like it, then you were labeled all sorts of horrible things, even to the point that they would say that it was Russian trolls, bots out there, right, leaving reviews. Your opinions were so ridiculed that you were essentially a Russian AI system if you took a different position than Lucasfilm. Well, we've reached the point now where the market is responding, and the access media, the trades, they hate the response the market has provided, but they hate even more that not only is Indiana Jones' Dial of Destiny losing in a way that is just remarkable, but you also have a film that's all about protecting kids, knocking it off of first place for the 4th of July. They cannot stand it. But Michelle, this goes to a level that's kind of sickening. Can you tell us what the movie is really about and what these attacks are about, I suppose, out of the media?
Yes, well, the movie is about, it follows a true story, and that's what's kind of been so bizarre watching. And I would just say this to you guys. I believe you have an intelligent audience that watches you. Anytime, if you observe the media, anytime the media is all peddling the exact same things, like in this case of Sound of Freedom, just go to whether it's Rolling Stone, whether it's CNN, Washington Post, the one we were just reading, they're all
Right.
saying
The order has gone out.
yes, they're all saying the exact same thing. And that should be a red flag for any person that's beginning to see that. So yes, it's like someone has sent out an order. Who that is, I don't know. But they clearly are very unhappy with this, which again, as I think I said on the last video I was on with you, begs the question of why. Why does this subject bother them so much when it really is? I mean, my audience applauded at the end. I mean, it's something. Children being rescued is something that should be applauded. You would think
that lands up there. You know, like protecting kittens. You know, helping the elderly cross the street. You would think those things are universal, but somehow the media is out against it, and they will go to any length possible, and they will regurgitate this same line, this same trope over and over, as you said in article after article. Michelle, let me follow up with you on this. Although, do you have another point on it?
Oh, I was just going to say, what I think is actually funny is I think that it's going to have the opposite effect. Like, I actually think had they just kind of ignored this movie, maybe it would have been better for them. But because they're doing the full court press on this movie, I actually think it will have an opposite effect of it will make people, when you make
Barbara
something
Streisand
taboo,
effect.
Yes, and when you make something taboo, people naturally want to see it almost like, well, what is this? Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to have also the effect of just people don't really like the mainstream media anymore, really on either side of the aisle. So I think it's going to make their numbers even bigger maybe than they would have been because they're giving them all this press.
Well, that's a great point. I think that would be a positive thing in the world to see that happen. Michelle, I do want to follow up with you, though, on something that gets us a little bit out of our comfort zone here on the channel, but I think is a necessary part of this conversation. And part of what we do here is we attempt to keep people ahead of the culture curve. Entertainment is a key way for us to determine where the culture is going. It can go in different directions, things that we perceive to be correct, things that we perceive to be wrong. That's not necessarily as important as us trying to be accurate in saying what's happening out there. What we're seeing out of this pattern of consumer decisions is that there is a steady supply of movies in a particular vein that do exceedingly well. We have seen this over and over again. We have seen these films like Top Gun Maverick that overperform to a drastic degree. Same thing with Mario. Same thing with Avatar. We'll go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 even. But then we've also seen the opposite, where these films that push a postmodern, post-truth, post-moral viewpoint have collapsed, utterly collapsed. Here's my concern. Now, I'm actually worried about this. I think Floral's going to have a more optimistic take on it, but I'm a little concerned here because I'm watching a market which demonstrates a significant cultural shift has occurred. I don't know when it occurred. I don't know what was the precipice to start it, but something has shifted the culture in a way that I had not seen in the past. However, that is dramatically opposed to the gatekeepers at the top. It is dramatically opposed to some of those who govern various countries. And it worries me. I don't know if this is going to lead us into a conflict situation where society has changed, and because the media is so poor, so terrible at covering the actual truth of what's happened, well, I mean, it's a postmodern, post-truth media as well. Mm-hmm. I don't think that our leaders can even understand what's happening underneath them. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, and we will have to see, I guess, what political leaders do. But I think you're right. I think basically they push too hard and too fast. And society, as Floral said, people might kind of agree, say something that they don't really believe, just so the heat's not on them, X amount of people. But overall, we can say through media that people have rejected what has been pushed on people. Because if you think of the movies you just named as doing well, I thought there's two things there's one of two things that they promote. Two of those movies promote family, being Mario and Avatar. There's a very strong family connection there. And then with Top Gun, it's patriotic. It was the first time we had something that was unapologetically American in a long time.
And male.
Yes, and masculine. And so you saw how people responded to that. And those are two things that the movies and the mainstream media have tried to come against. Both family and being patriotic has become a bad thing to them. But yet that's what people want. So it is interesting what they will do. But eventually, when people, it's good to vote with our wallets, but we also need to vote when it comes to actually voting for politicians that at least align closest to our beliefs.
Now, Floral, you are more optimistic than I am at this point. Not in regards to society. I feel pretty good about where society is. And folks, I'm not trying to take necessarily a political position here. I'm trying to take a philosophical position. But I'm not optimistic that we are in a place of moderating the culture. I think that the people who have been the gatekeepers, the people who have been fomenting lies about Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Disney, et cetera, I think that those people are going to be extraordinarily cruel and vile as they attempt to defend their positions. And, I think this could lead to stress. How's that? Societal stress. So, Flora, why are you optimistic, perhaps, that the pendulum is shifting such that that's not a huge concern?
I wouldn't say it's not a concern. I would just say that's nothing new under the sun. And so, because people are going to people violently protect their idols. And so you're going to see that they, and so, again, I just want to make sure I word this all correctly. We give
us some optimism, Flora. What do you got?
So because people
put a sunshine on this, a little happy face.
Yeah, no. So at the top is what I'm first referring to, right? So that's always going to be consistent, right? And people are broken, people are messed up, people are everywhere, top, bottom of the spectrum, wherever. So then my thinking is, though, again, I come back to the point that people, they're just resisting this forced change. They're not there because people innately know the truth. They innately have this wired in, built-in thing. And so they're actually resisting what's going on. And ultimately, I guess that's just what it boils down to, if we're going to be honest. And I'm encouraged because we are actually seeing people resist the vitriolic. We're seeing them resist the misogynistic. We're seeing them resist just the emasculating. We're seeing it all being pushed to the back. Those things aren't thriving, even though the people are being told they should support it and that they're going to be bad names if they don't. So the people, they're just not vocalizing it. But again, their wallets aren't going there. Their time isn't going there, as we're seeing, like through whatever we can get from Nielsen and whatever else. And so people just aren't there. They're just not engaging on those levels. And obviously when those in power see that the populace resist, there's conflict. Again, that's historical.
I think we're headed for that. Yeah.
But let's go back to Pixar.
I'm not keen on it.
We got more ants.
No, I'm not keen on
it.
Well,
here's. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I can give a positive on that. I think my degree was in business, and there's kind of a saying that the market always fixes itself, corrects itself. And I think you're seeing that right now. And that will even come down to those pundits that don't want to admit they're wrong. Eventually, they might just lose their job because eventually enough people may just stop reading what they write. And that's where that would be the Scott Mendelson treatment. Even though sometimes it takes longer with big companies that have lots of money, we're seeing that even with Disney. No one is invincible here. And even those companies, they might have to start firing some of those people if they don't begin to produce what the market is demanding.
Which I think we're actually seeing, right? So let's look at some of those people who've gone from Disney, right? Now, again, I don't purport to be valiant or you pro, but being a common man, I'm looking at that and I'm like, these are the people that we've been griping up against for the last while. Like, why isn't Disney making better financial decisions? Right? Well, they just axed the CFO, or axed.
Right. Chief Diversity Officer is
Right?
out.
She's gone, and we know that they've cleaned HR up, right? And so they're not protecting people that used to be protected. So you're seeing some of it. It's just that obviously the ones that are entrenched, they're going to resist. I got this gut feeling there's going to be this Bob Iger let them eat cake moment, and it's going to be hilarious for those of us watching, because that's when your channel's going to explode, bro. That's when Valiant's going to like get the hit the million mark. Like, and I'm not operating the prophetic or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I get that feeling that's what's going to happen. And you're just going to see Disney implode and something kind of cool come out of it. Now, whether it's a Disney Renaissance or a whole new thing. Now, I mean, when Marie Antoinette got it chopped off, it was not so bright of a time. It was very bloody and it was brutal. But
We'd rather not do another French Renaissance. That's
no,
French Revolution.
But there were some cool things that happened in that time, right? We look back at the architecture and the artwork, and we're like, "That's cool." Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
There are pieces of beauty within a hurricane. How's that?
There you go. Let's look at the funny colors in the sky.
That's right. Well, I'll say this.
I don't know.
When it comes to what we're seeing, folks, if you don't hear it anywhere else, listen to what we're saying. There is something big happening in society, in the culture, and we're seeing it against Disney. It's bigger than the other companies that are getting all of the attention. Perhaps we're about to start seeing the attention given to it. But when you have a franchise like Indiana Jones pull the exact same kind of second weekend as Elemental, something major is afoot. And there is no option for Disney to go forward in their current constitution. They're going to have to change. There's going to have to be a mea culpa. The market will bring the mouse to its knees. And my worry, although I wish to be persuaded to be more optimistic, and perhaps Floral, you can do that over the next weeks and months. But I hope that those who are in alignment with Disney, who are even more powerful, the institutional investors, the governments, etc., I hope that they will see the light, given that it seems to me that something big is happening inside society at large. And I don't think it's just in North America. In many of these Western countries, we're seeing the same kinds of results out of the box office. And that seems to me to be a major predecessor for something that is tangible inside the culture. So we will keep following that. But one other thing that we should take notice of is that we have questions. We try to answer those. It's called Cues from You, and it's where the members get to send in a question, and we answer them as a panel. So let's take a look at these, and we'll see what our panelists have to say about them. Stuttering Guitarist asks, I love Legal Mindset, and with the new Disney lawsuit brought to light, what on earth is the plan to get finances in shape for the Hulu issue? He mentioned BlackRock is no longer the majority shareholder. Will this next earnings call be less pleasant than what we've seen since Iger's return? Well, Stuttering Guitarist, not only could it be less pleasant, which really would be something, but you may even hear things brought up that Valiant Renegade originally reported on, because he's been all over the media. So you could actually be watching Valiant Renegade covering this live, and Valiant Renegade have to discuss him being discussed by Disney. So
that would
keep
be
paying
his
attention to
Tug
Legal
moment,
Mindset.
though.
Well, yes, definitely. That would be something for sure. All right, we've got Vic Sarah says, concerning the writer strike, presuming it lasts significantly, is there a possibility of getting non-guild workers to write, i.e., since Illumination is based in France and Nintendo could pull a Japanese-based script? Michelle, any ideas on what happens when more and more pressures apply to these companies to find ways to get around or end the strike?
Yeah, I don't know. That is an interesting one, because I remember Script Doctor saying he thought it could go into the fall, possibly.
Sure, October, November. They are more in tow with their positions than before, I would say.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a good point and a good question because you feel like they probably will because they know it's costing them money by not doing anything.
The
And I'd say
longer it
there's probably
goes,
pressure from the studio, I mean from the theaters and things like that too because they don't want another 2020 on their hands.
That's
Disney
right.
is in no rush though to get those writers back. They're going to save money by not.
They would
having
like
the
some new writers for sure. All right. Well, that's good. That's a great point, Floral. But I would say that the longer this thing goes, the crazier the consequences can be. Culture Casino, who's that guy? Says, does Disney's collapse seem to indicate a shift in consumer behavior over core values? Well, culture, that's what we've been discussing. And yes, I think it's a seismic shift. I think it's perhaps the story of the season. And we're going to begin covering that. Is the audience aware of why things have gone so terribly wrong? It seems dissatisfaction has hit all of their businesses with particular fury as of late. Panelists, anything additional to add beyond what we've already discussed?
No.
All right, we're satisfied. Michelle C., well, Culture, thank you for the question. I hope the entire video answered your question. Michelle C., always happy to see Michelle, says, Thursday morning made me think, does Kathleen Kennedy have kids? It seems that most of the people in charge don't know what family is because they don't have one. Well, Michelle, she does have kids and grandkids, so there are no excuses. Space Dave 2000 says, do you think the high theater price increases are an overreach by the industry? There's a price increase, then there's price gouging. Okay, great question. Movie ticket prices have outstripped historic inflation that we are currently experiencing. The average movie ticket price right now, according to AMC, we believe to be somewhere around $15. Let me hand it to Floral. Do you think that movie ticket prices are an overreach at this point?
I don't know. I just paid for my Mission Impossible tickets for my wife's and I's date. And it was like $30 for the two of us. And that's up here in Canada.
Well, that sounds about right then, doesn't it?
So
put a feather in my cap.
And, well, yeah, but honestly, like I was like, it feels kind of low right now. Because normally we're paying a lot more than what's going on in the States. Like normally, like what's like a $10 ticket for you guys is like $15 for us. So
yeah. Brag about your deal.
It could actually just
we hear you.
It could be because it's a matinee. I just realized that. But
oh well, that's why. Yeah.
But either way, though, it's I don't know. Obviously, yeah, it's expensive, but if I don't go out to the movies all that often anymore, so for me, it's kind of like when I go, it's worth it because I'm only spending the money on the thing that I care about. So I'm probably the worst person to ask now that I think about it. So Michelle,
you are perhaps one of the best. You frequent the movies often. What do you think about the value that you receive out of cinemas lately?
Yeah, I do think they're getting too expensive. And I mean, the bottom line is, yes, you can make more money when people come, but you're also discouraging people from coming for the movie that they think looks decent and not great. So I do think it's gone out of control.
Good point. All right, let's go to the last question we have. This out of Jex Refi. It says, for the sake of argument, let's assume that all of Doomcock's reporting on Indy 5 is true. Specifically the following. The original ending through various iterations was Indy dying and Phoebe assuming the mantle. Iger kept telling Kathleen Kennedy to change the ending. Well, he wouldn't have had much time to keep telling her that. He only came in mid-November, and we believe this was reshot in January. Kathleen Kennedy did 6 different endings, all ending the same way, and the ultimatum was thrown down. Let's see. Having not seen the film myself with no intent to and solely going off of reactions review, it seems like while the actual ending is awful, it's not the albatross that sinks the movie. Oh, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's
by no means would I want to defend KK, but could an argument be made that the ending was not the worst part of the movie? No, it's the worst part of the movie. And that some of the bloated budget was from Iger trying to mess with an ending that should have been left alone. No, I think I love the question. I love the thought. But that ending is just awful. It's a horrific way for the franchise to end. It makes no sense. Well, folks, here's the spoiler. If you still haven't gone and seen it and you want to, having a nauseating, flawless character who is filled with flaws knock out your hero who is the lead of one of the most successful franchises of all time, having her knock him out because he's that pathetic that she has to save him from himself, not a great way to go. It's rather terrible. and then the cut to black and fade in, that also doesn't make sense. How did they get into the plane? How did they get the plane back through the rift? How did she get the police not to arrest him when they came back? How did she get Marion to show up? How did, we could keep going. There are so many stupid loopholes that it is awful. It is an awful ending.
Before that, WDW, how did the boy know how to fly a plane who says he doesn't know how to fly a plane?
Oh, it's easy. Flying planes, that's not even close to hard, right? Anybody can do it. It's right up there with rocket science.
Especially these days.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Floral, let us know where people can find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there.
You can find me on Floral from Under a Rock. Me and the team, we're over there. We got our show on Wednesdays. These two great people have been on there before, along with many others. And we just try to have fun. We don't talk too much shop over there. We just try to mess around. So if you just need to have that euphoric moment of laughter or just being brain dead, feel free to join us. And that's what we do.
You're offering euphoria is what you're saying. Fresh dose of euphoria every day.
Not the Hunter Biden kind, but
no, those are left in small baggies. But Floral, you have a special playlist available. It's not a baggie, but you have a playlist available as you are working towards monetization for the channel. Tell us briefly about that little playlist people should go watch.
Yeah, so everyone wants me to make a playlist so that in their vein. So Pro has asked me to make some of my favorite things playlist, and so I've tried to find the ones that are as unique to me as possible. So sometimes there's parodies that we do of different songs, and those get copyright claims, and I don't know how that's going to work towards monetization. So I tried to only do one of those. Otherwise, it's just fun little videos and goofing off. And so just, if you can help those watch hours, that'd be fantastic. With YouTube's new update, we're only 1,000 hours away from monetization. And so in the last 3-4 weeks, we've climbed 400 hours. So we're getting there. So it's
fantastic, folks.
Probably by
Get
September,
out there and help out
October.
Floral.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Wonderful. All right, and where can we find Force of Light on this great, big, beautiful web?
Yes, you can find me and my sister at Force of Light Entertainment on YouTube, where we do movie reactions, trailer reactions, reviews. We also do a live stream almost every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk kind of more this type stuff there, pop culture, kind of what's going on. But check us out there.
Absolutely. Highly recommend both channels. Folks, please subscribe to my guests. Help support this channel in doing so. And if you'd like to give us some further support, you might consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It is, in fact, the little notification bell. The conversation here is over, but the commentary begins. Drop a comment down below. We hope we have been very edifying in this conversation. We hope we've taken it to new depths. It'll be very easy to just do a commentary video where we talk about the box office for 10 minutes and leave it alone. That's not what we wanted to do because there seems to be a bigger pattern out there. Share with us, do you believe in that bigger pattern? Do you think it's happening? And what is it exactly? Specify it, let us know. We read the comments, we care. We care about what you think. And folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch The Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.